All right, so first I'll say hello, and I hope you guys are having a wonderfully blessed Friday. So I had to take Keelan to the dentist today, and that's, in case you don't know, is my oldest son. He had to have some cavities filled. And so when you walk into the dentist office, there's some seating on the right side, and it's got a TV and toys, and that's where all the chaps are, loud and rambunctious, running and playing, which, sometimes can be annoying when you're in a small corner. And so I went over to the left side. There's a couch and two chairs, and it's, off, and you can't really hear everything. So I like that area. And so I was sitting over there, and I was by myself. Normally I bring my headphones or a book. And so I'll be kind of disconnected and maybe not approachable. I don't know. I'm not going to say not approachable, but maybe they would perceive me not to be so, or not wanting to be bothered. Well, anyway, Keelan today, I take those things or a book, and I forgot all that today, and except for my phone. And when I got there, I thought, oh man, I'm gonna have to hear all the racket and all the rambunctiousness. But anyway, so I scrolled through Facebook a little bit when Keelan got called back, and I had sat my phone down on the couch beside me, and I was just sitting there. And so my shirt, let me point out my shirt real quick. It's talking about our group at church, CFM Sisterhood, and it says #Love Me Some Jesus. And there's a reason for me saying that. So I went to my closet today, and I selected this shirt, and I took Keelan to the doctor. So we get to the doctor, and he's called back, as I said. And this lady moves from the opposite end where all the children were with her little girl, 9 years old. And she comes over and she sits in one of the chairs that are to the side of the couch. And she said a couple things to her daughter, and she had said a couple curse words, but she had apologized to the little girl. And I didn't think nothing. I mean, I'm not to condemn or pass judgment, so I'm just chilling. And she says, can I ask you a question? Okay, yeah, sure. She says, how do you stop saying God, the D word, D-A-M-N? And I said, okay, well, first of all, you got to know what the word damn means. I looked up the definition. At the time, I didn't have that thought. And I said, you're basically cursing the individual that you're saying God to. Well, if you serve the devil, he's the God of this world, so you're telling the devil maybe to damn this individual. I guess it's in what context you're using it in. And so the definition is be damned, be condemned by God, or be condemned, by God to suffer eternal punishment in hell, be forever damned with Lucifer, be doomed to misfortune or failure, condemn, especially by the public expression of disapproval, and curse. So I told her, I said, well, you're basically cursing them and asking God to come down hard on them and to damn them to something. And I said, the Bible tells us we speak life and death with our tongue. And I would encourage you, to start trying to speak life, or in that moment when you're feeling that word want to rise up, maybe use a different word. And I said, maybe make it funny or something like gee golly or something like that, and try to stay with that word every time that you feel that rising up. And she said, yeah, okay. I didn't know that it meant all that, and I said, yeah. I said, so, just know what you're using. Your words are powerful. And she said, yeah, I only do it when I get angry. And I said, wow. I said, well, let me talk to you about anger. I said, I know anger really well. I've battled it for a very long time. And I said, I've come a long way. I said, I rededicated my life to God in 2012. And I said, anger, just like any other thing, when you allow it to come into your life, it plants a seed in your heart. And it begins to take root and it begins to grow. And from that, branch off other things, if you keep going. And so I told her, I said, I battled anger for a long time. I said, I'll use an example about the uprooting process. I said, I smoked for 13 years. And in 2012, I rededicated my life. I wanted to change. I wanted to not be the old me. I used to cuss something horrible. But God, slowly and surely, I started transitioning out of that old Misty, that Misty BC, as I call it, before Christ. And I started transitioning to Misty after Christ. And so I said I wanted to quit smoking, but I didn't know how. I didn't really know how to go about it. But I started praying, and I was talking to this lady, a friend of mine, and she said, well, how have you been praying? Well, to quit smoking. And she said, when you started smoking, that planted that seed of addiction in your heart. And I said, okay. And she said, you've got to curse it at the root, ask God to remove it, and to take the desire from your heart to smoke. Renounce your desire. Renounce your taking hold of addiction. I said, okay. So I started praying on a Tuesday. I prayed Tuesday. God, uproot the desire from my heart. Curse it, Lord. Kill it at the root. I said, curse it at the root. Kill it. Uproot it. Take it out. Take it out of my life. I renounce my connection to addiction. I want freedom. I prayed that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm still smoking. Come Saturday, I quit smoking. I've never smoked a cigarette since, and that was in 2012. So from 2012 till today, I have no desire to smoke. It doesn't pop up in my head, let's go get a cigarette, because it's deliverance. And when you get true deliverance, you don't turn back. God takes that completely and fully out of your system. And she's crying by now, and I didn't know why she was crying. And she said, I'm so glad that I moved over here. I'm so glad that I just was drawn to you. She said, I was looking at your shirt, and she said, I knew you had to be a Christian. And I said, wow, really? And she said, yeah. She said, I'm so glad that I moved over here. This was, you were here for me today. And I said, man, that's awesome. She said, I battle addiction. She said, I'm addicted to smoking marijuana and crack. And she said, I want freedom from it, but I don't know how. I don't know what I need to do. And I said, well, I just told you the steps, and that's where you start. Well, first of all, you rededicate your life back to God, and then you start with that prayer, and you stay consistent with it. You don't give up on it. You don't turn back from it. You stay consistent in your desire. And so she was crying, I said, this is a divine appointment. And she said, a divine appointment. And I said, yeah. So let me tell you an example. I said, I'll go back to explain how good God is and how amazing he is. I said, I've been out of work since 2015. I have an affliction in my right foot, reflex sympathetic dystrophy. And I explained to her what that was. And I said, I made $42,000 a year at my job. And I went from making $42,000 a year in 2015 down to really living on $400 a month. And I said, it's hard. It's you go from that kind of an income to nothing. It makes it really hard. And I said, but I still pay my tithes. She said, you pay tithes? I said, right, 10% on my $400, which is $40. I said, but there's times I really need that 40. I really could use that 40, but I pay it. And I said, I'm going to tell you how God is so good, and how that if you'll be obedient and you'll do what God called you to do, this is what will happen from it. I said, in my paying, I've never ran out of gas since 2015. My phone's never been shut off. I've never been without power or water. I've never ran out of my needs, ever. Something always comes through, and that something is God. He always provides. I said, so one day, a divine appointment. I was in Walmart. This is a couple weeks back, and I didn't have no toilet paper. And those that know me know toilet paper is pretty important. And so I don't have no TP. And I'm in there after church looking at the toilet paper. And I had a set amount of money, but I had to buy some cat food too. And so I'm trying to decide, what do I do? How do I make this? How do I extend this little bit of money into something that'll provide both needs? And so a friend of mine messages me, and she says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm in Walmart making life decisions, laugh out loud. And what I mean by that is because you shouldn't be spending all this time trying to figure out what kind of toilet paper to buy. And so she says, life decisions, what do you mean? And so I tell her, trying to get some toilet paper. She says, well, I'm in Walmart too. And she comes around, and she's like, I got you back. And she buys my toilet paper. So not only did she get me toilet paper, she got the one that equals up to like 60 rolls. And it extended, and it lasted the whole time. I did not run out. And I got the cat food. And the lady's crying again. She says, so God, like, he really comes through for you. I said, every time. And I'm telling her, she's like, can I please have a hug? So I get up and I give her a hug. And I said, I tell you what, I said, listen, I said, from 2012 to 2017 has been a major transition process in my life. But I became a minister, a licensed minister this year. And she said, really? I said, yeah. I said, I tell you what, I'm going to give you my phone number. And anytime that you're battling addiction, anytime that's rising up in you, you want to do that, you want to, contact me, message me. I'll pray right then. And I'll try, I'll come in agreement with you to bind up the enemy that's attacking you through that spirit of addiction. And she says, you would do that for me? And I said, yes, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're called to do. And she said, man, that is awesome. She said, okay, thank you so much. So she gives me her phone. I enter my phone number. She texts me her name. I took her number down, and she said, so I've got somebody that's got my back. You'll have my back. I said, I got you back. I said, I'll pray for you, man, no doubt. And I said, listen, I said, our church has a recovery group. The guy that's over it was a ex-gang member and a drug addict. And not only that, but he sold drugs. And I said, but he's changed his life. And now he's leading up a recovery ministry. I said, I don't know where you live, but maybe you could come sometime. It's in Talbot, Tennessee. She says, well, I live in South Knoxville, which is about an hour and a half. I said, wow, that is a journey. She said, but if I can get freedom, it's worth it. I said, yes, it is. I said, I tell you what, when I get to where I'm in a place where I can text you, because about that time Keelan was getting ready to come out, I said, I'll text you the address, the times, and if you can come, you're more than welcome. And again, if you ever need prayer, please contact me. And so she again hugged me, and she told me that she was so glad that God had set up this appointment. She was so glad that God used me to minister her, and she was so glad that she had moved close. So I want to say to you today, if you're walking, if you're claiming to be a Christian, or I'm just going to say a follower of Jesus Christ, a disciple for him, then there's going to be times, that people are going to come to you, and your reaction, somebody else might have been like, how do you stop saying the GD word? Like, really? What is that? But I'm so proud that I'm humble, and I have prayed and I have prayed and I have prayed to be God's vessel. And I'm seeing those things. I'm seeing that fruits of the Spirit, because I've been calling life to that. I've been saying, God, let people see you in me. And so it showed me that she apparently, not only the shirt, but she had to be okay to approach me to open up conversation. And I'm so honored. I'm so honored that she felt safe enough to approach me. And so I just want to say today that I'm so honored. I'm so blessed to be used by God. And I'm just glad for that divine appointment. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and that you be blessed.